Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a good, quick break and are ready for the next inspiring session. I'm Himakshi Vijayvargiya, your Toastmaster for this session. And I'm excited to have Jocelyn Tyson back to give us some tips on speech delivery. As you know, Jocelyn has won the World Championship of Public Speaking last year in 2023. If you haven't watched her winning speech yet, I would highly recommend it. Besides presenting an inspiring story about her first triathlon, Jocelyn really nailed it with her dynamic speech delivery skills. So let's learn from the best. Please welcome Jocelyn Tyson. The ABCs of dynamic delivery, Jocelyn Tyson.
Detail, attend, hot! Okay, maybe over here. Stay on camera. Detail, attend, hot! On that note, how many do we have military background? Any military background? Okay, so you kind of knew. How many now with me? Marching band. Band geeks in the house. Yes. I was not only a band geek, I was queen band geek. I was the drum major. I mean, I had the mace, I had the plume. Mine was red. Everyone had white, but red denoted my status. I was bold, and our band was huge. 250 plus band members, maybe 75 of the color guard, you know, the ones with the flags with the pretty. Over 300 teenagers. Have you ever heard the term herding cats? We have some cat owners. Some days they're like, no, not that. And the teenagers, some days they're like, no, not that. So 300. How do you hoard them together and get them at attention? You use a military call, detail, attend, huh. And for us, it was in 4 counts. Detail, attend, hut. And collectively, they all had to then say hut on that 5th or that next one. So it would be detail, attend, hut, hut. Yes. Yes. How about we do it all together? Now, everyone knows what to do. This time, I'm going to step out. Detail, attend, hut. All right. One more time. Now, this time, we would say detail at ease, and everyone would kind of relax. We all know it's coming. Detail at ease, detail at ease. Now, this time, we all know, and this will be a little bit more universal. We'll bring it together. I'm going to count on the 4, and I'll give it, and together. And also, let's do something different. Turn in a little bit, and when the hut comes, bring your head up, bring your chest back. Come on. So, detail at ease, relax. Detail, attend, hut. Yes. That's exactly what it was. Which brings me to the first of the ABCs. My ABCs are in no particular order. A priority, let's say it that way. However, the first A that I think is most important when you are giving dynamic delivery, the most important, it's slower than I thought, audience. Your audience. And the reason I came out strong, bold, because you can come out strong, bold, and if it's talking to the wrong crowd, what good is it? What good is it? It falls on deaf ears. You are wasting your time, but more importantly, their time. Who is your audience? And there's 5 points when it comes to the audience. Who, what, where, when, and why. This chair out the way. Who are you talking to? My mother used to say that sometimes when you got out of line. Who do you think you're talking to? And you knew, uh-oh. You had to retrace your steps and go, what did I say? Uh-oh, I got out of line. But assess the people you're speaking to. What's the age, the culture, demographics, and try to understand their perspective. Try to understand who they are. Am I speaking to corporate clubs? Am I speaking to a community? Am I speaking to high-end leaders within my company? Who am I speaking? It sets for the tone of who are the people you are speaking to. Of course, now we go into the what's the need? What's in it for them? What's going on? What will help them solve a problem? What do they need to do? And also, where and when? That speaks to the logistics. Where am I speaking? Is there audio visual? Do I have audio and do I have a microphone? Am I holding a handheld? Am I having my arms open? And of course, the time of day. Who knows that you've got to speak to a group differently right after lunch? Then that would have been something where I said, stand up. So we get you moving. Because I know how I am after lunch. Or better yet, I'm speaking to a club at 8 a.m. on a Monday versus 4 p.m. on a Friday. What's the attitude? What's the need? Hurry up and get this thing done. Hit the bullet points and let's go. I got Friday things to do. Or no, take your time. We just got here. I'm not waking up yet. That's a different type of time. So assess some of the basics. Where, when, and ultimately, of course, the why. And of course, speak to the passion. Call to action. Why do they care? Why would they care to hear from you? What is it that you're going to offer? Why you? I speak to the next one. This one, authenticity. I think we spoke about this to some people yesterday. Authentically you. I know I can be, some would say, a little bit dramatic. Just a little. But I recognize that's who I am. That's who I'm going to be. That's how I'm going to speak. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to do movement. I'm going to fall. I'm going to tip over. This is who I am. That's how I present. Be yourself. Because your best self is your best self. And the audience can see your comfort level. They can see that in you. They can see where you're at, how things are going. Be yourself. And start sometimes with comfortable topics. Build upon what you're familiar with, then expand as you learn and grow. Start at a place of comfort, because that's where your comfort is. I understand we need to push ourselves. And I did a speech called Push Past Uncomfortable, because that's where growth is. It's absolutely true. But at the same time, start sometimes small. Baby steps. If that's where you need to be, baby steps. No one's telling you you have to go from here to there. Take your time. Who's rushing you? Who's forcing you? You want me to talk to them? Take your time. Start where you're comfortable, because that comfort, they see that. They feel that. I can convey that. I'm comfortable here. I'm more comfortable here in this speech than I was in the other one, because this one I feel a little bit more relaxed. I can relate to. I can tell you what's been working for me, some of the dynamic things that I know that we need to implement. And the last one, I'm going to take the jacket off for that, because I'm going to be ready just to now relax. But be comfortable. Authenticity. And of course, the final A that I like to start with, that my intro did, grab their attention. Grab their attention. Strong intro. Set the tone. Start with a bang. Start with something that goes, really? Let me find out a little bit more. There's different ways to do intros. We go into, some examples are stories. You begin with a story. Also, statistics, facts. In this case, Rochelle started off with information that we knew about World Championship Toastmasters. We could talk about how World Championship Toastmasters, there were over 86 world champions. How many know there's only 7 women? I was the 7th. So you start talking about the fact that, okay, those stats. That starts you to intrigue. It starts your mind going. You start thinking about things. Start with statistics and then build from there. Another example, quotes. Try to use a new quote, something a little bit more original. And of course, questions. How many people knew? And you finish strong. Your call to action. And also know that the last words do linger. And you want to close on a high note. Now, I went through our A's. I don't want this. This is a workshop. We want to talk. Let's talk about some of the questions. What are some of the things that, as I know we have some experienced Toastmasters here. We got some 30 Toastmasters here. We got plus years, 20 years. I want to know, what are some of your thoughts about the attention when it comes down to authenticity or when it comes down to audience? What are some of the things that we should be inquiring about or have questions about or we can talk about when it comes to those three major A points? Do we have any questions or what's work for you? We know that's been working for them. Okay, thank you. Yes. Let's talk about it.
Is there a mic so people on Zoom can hear?
Oh, yes.
That really is my question. My clubs are still largely on Zoom, and it's, as a speaker, it's hard to assess the audience's level of attention when they're on screens. And as an audience member, sometimes there are other things on my screen that catch my attention. How do you fight that?
Well, this is not just me. I want to have this a conversation. So how do we fight when attention could be wandering? Sometimes we can put a question in the chat. We can ask for people to get feedback. We can throw in another comment. Anyone else? Anyone has an idea? What are some ideas that we can pop up for attention? Yes.
Long pause.
Long pause.
And then like, is my Zoom on?
I like that. A long pause and is your Zooms on? Did you freeze frame? Wait, no, you didn't. I was just seeing who was noticing. I like that. Come on. Yes, what do you like right here?
Encourage people to turn on their camera so that you're not looking at a frozen image or a name, and so that everyone can see where the audience is looking.
Yes, that's a good one. Have your cameras on. Ask for cameras on. And then those that don't have them, why? Say, hey, is there anything going on? We would love to see you. Okay, but at least have them ask them, why are your cameras not on? Right there in the middle.
Do a poll.
I like that. A poll. Have a poll. Quick question. Sometimes it could be an ice cream poll. What's your favorite flavor? And then boom, you start having quick ones, and that way people are responding because it doesn't have to be a real in-depth poll. And then you take a diverse from that or table topics from that. Yes.
We can ask the people on Zoom, and we can give a suggestion. The speaker can give a suggestion about what background would be better for the session, so that way the speaker gets to see clearly, what's going on in the frame.
Okay. Have feedback about the backgrounds with people and also in the Zoom. That's a good one. Any other audience? Any things about our audience that we can inquire for and what's going on? Yes.
Emojis?
Emojis. Okay, in the chat, or the ones that pop up saying heart emojis, the clap emojis, and all those are good. Respond with the thumbs up emoji. That's a good one. Anyone has a thumbs up or the claps or the thumbs down. Good way to do that over Zoom. Any others for Zoom or even audiences? Yes.
Directly involve them, speak to them, because you could be speaking about yourself or about an event, but if you speak directly to that audience, that's the person be like, hey, I noticed that you may want to say something, or that you're looking to the side and you catch their attention, and you speak to a person.
Call them out. I see that. It's like, okay, Anna. Yes.
Move around on your screen, not just left and right, but if you get closer to the camera, people feel like you're coming at them.
Yes. Yes. Again, working those audio visuals, working that space, because we do have that box, but you have all the room in that box to work with. And that is something that you start to learn and pay attention to. For me, when it came down to the contest, my video is what took me all the way up to the semifinals. It had nothing to do with live. I mean, my live was with my club, but we're maybe 10, 15 people that I did that. The video and how I projected in that was what took me all the way to the end to qualify then to go to World Champion. So I had to make sure that my video gave you the same feeling. I had to make sure all the ways that conveyed that I was connected. So we have to start to work on that process. Any others for our A's? Okay, yes.
It's missing connectedness, and one of the things I use quite often in my speeches is I'll actually ask audience members questions, involve them in the speech.
Asking questions.
Those type of speeches where I actually engage the audience.
Okay, I guess we're gonna start using the mic.
Zoom
Yeah.
etiquette, there are people who are new to Zoom or not too familiar with it. And I've been in a meeting where someone was muted and giving a whole presentation not knowing.
Having a little Zoom 101 etiquette. That's not a problem. Just in the beginning, just have a little Zoom etiquette. Yes.
Can you share with us about your video? How did you make it so compelling to help you get to the finals?
Absolutely. When it came down to the video, I practiced. And I made sure, I taped down the floor to see exactly where I needed to go. I made sure I set up my camera. I also taped where I wanted to stand for here, where I wanted to stand for there, because I wanted to utilize all the space. And I wanted to make sure, because my camera couldn't zoom in on me, so I had to zoom in on the camera, just as Marisha had mentioned, when it came down to Alizon's speech. He had to go into the camera to pull what he had, and that's where I had to go. I didn't do as many of the tricks and quirks, but I knew that if I gave you enough, then you could start to see you could see all the movements, you could see everything, and you could be a part of everything. It needed to give you a stage presence, but also give you something that was close and personal. Okay. Questions on the audience or questions on authenticity? All right, we can move on to the bees. No, they're moving on to questions. Is there a question or not? For our B, this one, breathe. How are we handling those jitters? How are we handling that nervousness right before a speech? It happens to us all. And we were saying yesterday, nerves are good. Sometimes having those nerves and having that feeling is just using that energy and leveraging that to give your speech. Center yourself. Find your inner peace. And to calm those nerves, you try different preps, routines, and methods. Now for me, I do a breathing exercise. I'm going to ask that you do this with me now. So I want you to center yourself. Cross your legs. Sit yourself centered. Yes. And right before I do my speech, this is my normal one. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. I'm not going to lie. But I find that this helps to center me. Center yourself. And on 3 counts, we're going to breathe in. We're going to hold for 3 counts. And then we'll let out for 3 counts. With me now. 1, 2, 3. Hold. 2, 3. Out. 2, 3. Again. 1, 2, 3. Hold. 2, 3. Out. 2, 3. And I do that. I repeat that as often as necessary. And I also do a talk where I tell myself, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3. What the heck is bothering me? And I start having a moment. Center yourself. Bring yourself to right now. What am I worried about? I'm worried that they won't like me. Am I worried that this is not going to go well? Why am I worried about all the bad? Let's worry about not think about that. Let's talk about the good. What's the worst that could happen? I learn. It's okay to fail. If you learn from the fails, you pick yourself up and you move forward. But you learn really, really best sometimes from the fails. The wins are great, but those fails are lessons. And of course, practice. The more prepared you are and relaxed and comfortable you will be. Practice, practice, practice. Sometimes we get anxious because we know we're not ready. Because we don't know what our intro is. We didn't give ourselves enough time. We wrote this speech this afternoon. Let's be honest with ourselves. So you get nervous because you're not sure where you're going to go because you didn't practice it enough. Sometimes give yourself the amount of time. I was speaking with someone earlier, where she's sitting, but it was almost as if like you sign up when you do a speech. Give yourself an adequate amount of time. Don't force yourself. Fully commit to this assignment and make sure it's right and it's ready. Practice. And at the end of it all, once it's time though, you let it go and go ahead. What are some pre-jitter things that other people do? And some people here, and we have some advanced people, what pre-jitter things are some things that you would share that you do for pre-jitters? Okay.
Usually standing up tall in front of a mirror and holding up like power pose they call, right? Something like that.
Yes. Power pose. Absolutely. That's a good one. Absolutely. Oh, in the back.
So
So I like to accept that I'm nervous, and that kinds of help me to, move on, and really pull myself together and go on stage strong.
Yes, accept it. What's going on right now? What's bothering me? I'm nervous. That's okay. Let's go. Another? Yes.
I use the simplest and oldest trick. I listen to my favorite song.
Yes. Favorite songs, that power song, that get ready, get hype, let's do it. Or some that relax you and calm you. Whatever your song is, whatever the things that you do, do what's right for you. Center yourself. Yeah, in the back there. Okay. Just keep your hand raised because I don't think they know where you are.
I find slower my speech to speak helps me to calm down.
Gotcha. Slow down. Yes.
Stretch.
Yes. Get the blood flowing to extremities. Get yourself moving. That's a good one. Get things moving, opening up yourself. Yes, sir.
Shake it out.
Shake it out. Yes. I was in a podcast recently, and one of the presenters talked about how he just shook. He shakes all over, and he had us all get up, shake all over my hair. We won't talk about that, but it was just shook all over. And he said he gets it all out, and then he just relax and goes out there, and it was actually very helpful. Again, my hair, but at the same time, I was like, that could have a place for sometimes, and it can have a place for you. Find out different ways. It's not a perfect thing, but whatever will work, give it a try. Try each time. This is what we're doing. Try. Yes.
If I'm well prepared, then I try to shift the focus from me. It's not about me, it's about my message. And that takes some pressure off of me.
Exactly. It's not about you and your nerves. It's as long as your message is getting and it's received. If there's one person in the room that got something, it was worth it. It was worth it. All you need is one person. And that's all. It takes the pressure off. I just need one person to say, you know what, I got that. Yeah, there we go. It was a win. And let's go into another B is brevity. Oh, excuse me. You had another one for Bree?
As he said, like remove the pressure from yourself and put it on audience or on your message. What is the best way of doing that? Because it's not easy to remove the pressure from yourself to audience.
What I find helpful is
We can't hear, and I know the people in Zoom.
Absolutely.
So as she said, we have to remove our pressure from ourselves to audience or the message. So my question is, what is the best way of transferring that pressure to the message or audience? It's not easy, right, for some people. So I just want to understand how we do that.
Thank you. So how do we transfer and bring the message back to making sure I find that if I do a recap on them, what the message is, we go to the conclusion. That's okay. You don't have to have your big, bold conclusion, but you can make sure you're bringing back what is the need, what is the important thing here. And sometimes it is just coming back and saying, again, I want to talk about ending world hunger and how important it is for people to understand everyone has a right to eat and has a right to move on and have proper nourishment. And then go back to your points. And just to be sure, world hunger needs to stop. So you're going back to just bringing it up back again, reiterate, refocus, bringing back. As mentioned, we any questions about the breathing or getting centered or nerves? Brevity. Ooh, what is going on? Be brief, my brother, be brief. How could you say it with less words? Concise, you edit, and condense. Be brief, my brother, be brief was one from my pastor, actually. And he had this thing where he would hand the mic or whoever come up and speak, he'd just say, just be sure, be brief, my brother, be brief. And we would laugh, but recognizing where can you start to tweak? And that comes truly from editing and going through and practicing it out. I even was presenting my speeches to some of the other people and my mentor or whoever, other past world champions, and they can give you info. Maybe you take that out. Do they need to know that? That doesn't need to be there. Who cares? And you start to go, okay, so you start taking out things that if this wasn't in my story, would you still get my story? If I had left this out completely, would it be that impactful? Did you need to know? And little parts you can do, and sometimes later on you ponder the recap. I thought about it too. Did you need to know Mark's company was a computer company? I could just said warehouse. I could cut that for the next time. Did you need to know that he was 23? We could said young. That 23, I keep that. I'm keeping that. Start to edit. Be honest and open with yourself and start to say, where can I cut? Where can I cut? And then cut again. Edit and condense. Anyone else have tips for brevity? What can we do for brevity?
You know, something I always have done with speeches is I ask myself, does it have value and does it add value to the speech? Because sometimes people think more is better and more is not necessarily better. And I think your speech has come out a lot better when you condense it to the point where you remove all those things. It really is not of importance.
Right. Does it add value? Question is, what does it, the answer is, does it have value and how important that could be to when you start to edit? Does it add to your speech? Does it need to be there? Can you take away? Let's go in. Any other brevity comments? We have the mic just so we can start making sure that's happening.
Yeah, so what I do is I record myself and listen to my own speech and then realize that there's too much information and I can edit some things out, or some things does not make sense. When you're writing on paper, it makes sense because you're writing it like a book or a story, and when you speak out, then you realize that no, there's too many words and too much information.
Absolutely a good one. That one I love, and I do that one often. And also it helps me prepare for my speech. If I'm reading it out to myself, and I edit and go, too much, it's too wordy, cut that out. Now I'm recorded again, I liked it, that one, and now I'm listening to my recording. I'm in the car listening to my recording. I'm familiar with I'm recording with the transitions. I have everything that I'm just listening over and over. That's part of my practice. It helps me lock it in. Brevity, questions on brevity? Or comments on brevity? All right, we have the mic.
Well, you might be able to hear me. How do you get over here? Listen to me.
Let's hit the mic.
Okay.
Sorry, what was that?
How do you get over your own voice? And I'm always like, I don't want to hear my own voice.
Yeah, it happens to us all. Because in my head, I'm Whitney Houston. I'm like, I'm the best. But in reality, I'm like, oh, no. No. You listen to it. You listen to it. You get familiar with it. Listen to your own voice. Have a moment where you're recording yourself on your speeches and just get started used to hearing yourself. And after a while, you'll start to recognize, this is how I sound. This is who I am.
Thank you, dear.
Practice with you. Yes, Mike?
For me, I would say I try to be committed to the message and playful with everything else. Like, learn to just move things around, leave things behind, but be committed to the message overall. Yeah,
Good one. Yes, your key points, your key things. What's the message? And then everything else, that's all the fun. That's the fluff. Comments on brevity? Yes?
One from online.
Okay.
Mike.
Here's a comment from online. They say, I love the idea of the principle of Chekhov's gun that President Vasiliev mentions. Does it need to be there? Basically, if you show the gun in the first part of the speech, that gun better go off somewhere during the speech, else it shouldn't be there.
Oh, I wasn't familiar with that, but I like that one. Show the gun and make sure you let everybody know what's going off. Be ready. It sets the tone. I like that concept. Different. Questions on brevity? Comments? We're here to learn. Okay. The next one is a big one, and it is your content. Your content. Ooh, I've got a few. It needs to be clear. We have an introduction, a body, a conclusion. It just needs to be, this is where we start, this is where we're building, and this is where we end. And you do want consistency. Reoccurring themes, reiterate a story or stories. As mentioned, wondering where you're going in terms of bringing that message back to your audience, bring it back. Just bring it back. You just wind up bringing back on what's going on. But sometimes we do need to have bring it back, because I forgot, wait, okay, that's where she's going. Bringing it all recircling. It's a good way. Another, as it buildable, we're having stair steps as it's moving up. Is it moving along a certain path? Is it memorable? What's lasting impression can you leave with? Again, using stories, engaging our audience, and as their takeaway, what are the key points? Using a phrase or acronym, and we know it's SMART, just making sure that you're having something that's a key point and a takeaway. So buildable, memorable takeaways, okay? Clear and consistent throughout. Let's talk about content. What do we know about content? What do we want to talk about? What are some things that is helpful for you? We got some advanced Toastmasters, we got some newbies. Let's talk about content. You have questions about content? Take your time to think about it. Give you a few minutes. Because I'm calling on somebody. It's warm.
The one I've always heard is the rule of 3. So if you have 3 points, people can digest it very easily. And so it's the golden rule for any kind of bullet points you want to make for your speech.
Exactly. 3 points is easy, especially when you're doing table topics. It's a nice way to kind of pull things together. Absolutely. Threes are good. They're making memorable. They're concise. They're bite-sized. Absolutely good ones there for that. You don't always have to stick with that. So sometimes if you're building content and you only have 2 good points, that's all right. Make 2 good, solid points. I've got 2 points for you, here and here. Everyone's good. But 3 is a great place to start to see if you have that, but don't hold to it to be as hardcore, but as a great guide. Thank you.
Doesn't seem to be on.
Okay.
There, okay. It also supports brevity. I'd say if your content doesn't support your message in some way, it shouldn't be part of your content.
I'm saying, yes.
And make sure you have only one message.
Okay. All right. One concise message.
What's in it for them? Why should they be listening to you? What are they going to gain from it?
Right. Going back on the audience, I think that helps you with your content is what's their need. What's the problem? And that helps you build as to that. I need to build a content that's around that problem. Absolutely.
The first thing I think of is how can I come up with something new? Like whatever I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to prepare a speech on, is it something new? You know, of course, you can't probably really be creative every time, but at least am I delivering, conveying something at least partly new?
Yes.
And I have a question for you,
Sure, yeah.
relevant to this. So when we make a speech, we can pump it up with 2 things, right? One is facts, and one is our side, like opinion or perception or something. What is a split you suggest? How much of a speech should be facts, and how much should be your opinions?
The question I would say is, who is the audience, and what are we speaking on? Because if I'm at work, I'm going facts. I'm doing 80% facts. I'm doing 20% emotion. But I want to hit you with the, what's the facts? Where are we going? Where is this? What's the goal? Because I know facts is what I'm bringing to my audience, because my audience needs facts. Doctors don't care about your emotions. They don't. They know it's part of the story. They like the story, but in the end, what's the cure? What's the issue? What's the medicine? What are we talking about? What are the adverse effects? What are the documented proof? What are the facts? So for that presentation, heavy on the facts. But I'm talking to a community of Toastmasters, 80% emotion. Just bring a little facts. We got someone new.
Thank you. You nailed it.
I would like to piggyback on what he just said about bringing something new, but another angle is bringing something that's not new, but bringing it in a new way. So there's old things that you can talk on and put a different spin on it to where it gives it a totally different meaning.
Yeah, that's a good one.
For content, I think logical or associative flow is good for making sure that it's memorable as well.
Like that, logical flow. Comments about content. Let's talk about content. Yes.
So I think, like your example of Mark's story, just keep mainstream, because your story is about Mark's getting injured and all that, but you did mention about his girlfriend.
We don't really need to know about how long they've been dating, where does the girlfriend work, where's the girlfriend live, because that would divert the attention from the audience. So keep that mainstream, keep the main story, and just make sure don't go around. Go straight. Don't make a right or left, go straight.
I like that. Keep the main thing the main thing.
Your theme. And then I think one more thing about content that is important is that it flows in a sequential manner, that you're not jumping back and forth, that you're not talking about something now and then something in the past and then you come back to the future, that it flows in a sequential manner.
Good one.
Content. Your theme should echo from the beginning to the end, like a ribbon running right through the speech.
Absolutely. And sometimes you want to set up to find out what the theme is before you even speak. Again, setting up your audience. Who are you talking to? What are we talking about? And now let's make sure our theme, our content, all that is going nicely through your speech. No one needs to deviate from something. Yes.
I also think it's important to try to make your content relatable as well, so people feel that they're part of the story. If you're up on this pedestal, it's very hard to develop that connection. That's why you're talking about Mark. That's something we can all relate to, and that, I think, is a great tool for getting the audience engaged.
Good one. Yeah.
Think about how you want to change your audience other than leaving them 5 to 7 minutes older.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, my voice.
Yeah.
Building on use a phrase or acronym, also alliteration. So the beginning letter, if you're trying to leave the people with a specific point or 2 points, and the words aren't they don't start with the first letter, the same first letter, grab a thesaurus and see if you can find the word that matches.
Nice. Yes, absolutely. You're like, what do I need? I need another C word.
Don't worry that you're talking about something that other people have already spoken about. My experience is that people have to hear the same thing over and over and over and over before they finally get it.
I like that one. The message needs to be repeated. It's okay. It's okay. Yes.
You should own the content. Means you should be comfortable enough that to anyone, you should be the master of your content.
The expert. Exactly. That's why it works when you're, that's why it works when, I just lost my place of thought. No, I didn't. That's why it makes it great to talk about yourself in a way. How did you learn and what you can help with someone else? Because you are the expert of your own story and your experience. And you can recognize and emote with someone else about whether or not they can find it relatable, something that you can connect with them. Because you can say, I've been through this. I'm the expert of what I've been through, and I'm the expert on that. And it helps with sometimes your content and giving you that confidence to recognize that you have a place to speak in this ring. Content, yes.
One thing I find really helpful when people are an expert in what they're talking about is to treat the audience as non-experts.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're talking about something very technical, explaining that thing as if someone doesn't know what it is can be so helpful as an audience member.
Know your audience.
Once I heard from the previous district showtime, Dr. Vikas said, how do you make your audience, how do you want your the audience feel throughout your speech? So the emotions you want to pass on to the audience. So that's one thing.
Yes. Keep your audience focused, your message focused. Yes.
So I had this question on one of the comment, master your content. I feel like when you have to master, that's the expectation that you are the expert for your content, especially in technical. That scares me because that means I need to prepare so much, and how much ever prepared I am, I feel maybe there's more to it, and then I never get to the part of presenting. So what tips do you have for me to get over that?
I would say a timeline. for you, then create yourself a timeline, a do or die date, and make that the day you're going to go ahead and present, whether you're ready or not. Give yourself adequate amount of time. The beginning, you saying, I give myself 2 months to prepare this. That's what it will be. I know that. 2 months. If you need more than that, I understand. But you give yourself an adequate amount of time and say, this is my due date. I'm doing this. I'm not pushing it off anymore. Sink or swim, I'm getting in the water. I want to move forward just for the last little bit. The dynamic delivery, some of the mastery tips that I think, and I believe that dynamic delivery, and for me, this is the part I excel at, and I feel comfortable and being confident in, is the physical. What is your appearance, your body language, your speaking area? I'll go into voice, flexibility, and volume. I'm going to bring these all up because I don't want them to go in slowly one at a time. I know that's not the best for slideshow presentations, but I'm learning along the way. So we're looking at physical, we're looking at voice, we're looking at the nonverbals, and of course, the eye contact. These are some of the softness, the finesse, how are you delivering? Your appearance and with your body language and your speaking area. Let's go into physical. Appearance. What do they see? What do you want them to see? Do you need to come in with a full suit? You don't have to. Do you want to come in with the heels or flats? It's up to you. This falls in on some of the authenticity. Your appearance is based on where you are comfortable at. No one is forcing you to be outside of your comfort zone. Be okay with you. Your body language, is it open? Are we giving some gestures? Again, with the movement, Rochelle talked about how we're moving, what's familiar to us. Are we yoga poses? Are we runners? Are we staying here within our body movement? Are we going over here? Being open is the key. And of course, your speaking area. And I spoke a little bit about where are you moving? Are we pacing? Are we speaking here? Are we in a nice, good space? Is it centered? We want to make sure our physical is something we do also pay attention to. And this is where the editing and the finesse may go. We're looking into your voice. Is it flexible? Do you move? What's the volume? Are you mic'd? Because without a mic, you have to project. And of course, your pitch, tone, and pace. Am I moving faster, slower? What are we doing? When I put an arrow on? Thank you. And of course, your nonverbals, the power of the pause for emphasis, to make a point, to help in your presentation style. Let it sink in, let it think. That's perfect. And then, of course, remember, eye contact. Looking around the room, not at one person making them uncomfortable, but moving around so you're getting a look of some eye contact throughout the room. So let's talk about the dynamic delivery. Would we have some questions, or I mean, have some tips or things we can help each other with that? Yes.
Do I need a mic?
Yes.
So I'm pretty new to Toastmasters, and because I'm also a perfectionist, I print out my speech and I read off of it. So I haven't been able to be as dynamic as I want. How would you recommend me to start memorizing, or how do you present without taking any notes?
Memorizing some of the key things, your intro, having some cards for something else that you want to build, but definitely your intro and your close. Have that down packed. The rest of it, take your time. Take your pace and take your time, and then just start doing outlines. Also, I mentioned that your outlines in your note cards may have a little bit more, and then slowly start taking some of those words off. Next speech, take a little more off, take a little bit more off, so that way you have just some key points to keep you going. But try to memorize your intro. Take your time with that one, so that way you're opening up in a good space, and it's okay. It's okay to start. You're in a place where you're trying to grow, so that's fine. Yes.
So when we specifically I'm talking about me, when I try to make an eye contact, it happens that I forget my speech or what I'm trying to say. So how do you deal with it? Yeah.
Practice. Practice. You try to practice and have cards. Have something with you. My first speech that I gave with live in front of my club, I had started online because it was 2021, and we started on hybrid. Speaking to a camera is so easy. But when I got in front of people, We were in it was like a tight pub. It was the NBA finals going on in the background. We had this little room. It was a lot going on. I had my intro packed. It was good. It was a good intro. I came in strong. I did this. And then after that, because I had memorized the intro, I blanked. I blanked out, and then I looked up, and I realized they were looking back at me. Like, you're looking at? Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! And I had to keep. And I remember we were analyzing this before, but I kept looking at the ground because I had to try to remember where my next place was. My mentor, she later said, "You should have your notes. Where were your notes?" I didn't think I needed them. I was ready. What do you mean? I didn't need notes. I practiced. I told you, I gave myself to my speeches. I practiced. I think I did it 3-4 times with different people. One girl had a dog running around, and I was trying to keep myself while I was practicing. I'm practicing for my speech. But at that time, I forgot all that. I blanked out. If I had a piece of paper just right there, where are you? Yes. As mentioned, when life we get stuck, there are 3 points. And if I had that, I would have been able to at least, okay, that's right, right, here we go, environment. Have your notes and slowly give yourself time to say, okay, I'm gonna look, okay, not looking, and work with that, but practice. And eventually, I was able to remember and look at people and move around the eye and just know where I'm at now. It takes its time. But yes. Okay, we got everybody. So who's going? Okay, who's spelled up, so yeah.
So my question is, I mean, I love your communication style, and my question is, when you practice, do you first just go with the content, or you are practicing with expressions, body language? Like, do you practice it together, or first you memorize the content and then you add body language and gestures and tones?
I practice the body language at the same time. As I'm thinking and writing this speech, I start telling myself, I had cut this out, but if the company, let's example, imports and exports. If I'm going to cite imports, and I'm bringing imports and exports. If he is loading boxes from pallet to bay, I'm doing pallet to the bay, and then his foot gets caught. I'm trying to think of, as I speak, what are the words I'm going to use? This helps me with my content. It helps me, like, I need something that I'm doing. Almost describing myself. So I tell my story as I'm, how I would also deliver it. Content. And yes. Oh, yes.
So kind of to the point about trying to memorize your speech and stuff, having talking points and then talking around them really helped. But the thing that helped me the most was someone told me, no one knows what you're going to say. So only you know that you messed up. You don't have to make it obvious that you messed up. And that gave me a lot of confidence, because then I realized I could say anything and everyone thought it was part of the speech.
Exactly. I like that one. That was a good one. Questions?
I've got one from online.
Okay.
Online over here. Lee asks, have you ever had issues with ums and ahs? You're so smooth, I could listen to you all day.
Aww.
Wondering how you got there. Was it ever an issue?
Yes, it was an issue, just like everyone else. It is an issue, especially when you're standing there and you have to now speak. I am thinking practice. And I paid attention to my ahs and ums and those that did the ah counter. For some clubs, you combine it. Ours was combined with the grammarian. I would take my number and I would try to get less the next time. My goal, if I did 5, 4 better be coming up next time. And then I would look at 4, dang it, I got back to 5. Okay, keep going at 5. So going back and keep going back. And I was tracking me. And I would take my time. And then, you know what? I started practicing just questions to myself. When I was on the phone for my job, I speak, at the time, I was in customer service, and I would talk to doctors, and I would do consults with patients about therapies and whatnots, and I would say, all right, I can answer this question without an And I start practicing just in my day-to-day, slowing myself down, thinking quietly, and not using my mouth to let them know, I'm thinking. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Practice. That's how I did it. Now, anyone else have tips for ahs and ums, though? When we're on the ahs and ums? No? Okay. Back in here, the ahs and ums? I don't. Yes, there's a question or a comment?
How do you implement the different physical movements in different spaces? Also, someone who's tiny versus someone who's tall. How do you have awareness about your space and your movement and your expression?
Ooh, I feel like that's a Rochelle question. What I would say is when it comes down to own your space, give yourself space, own your space. Whether it's short, tall, I believe own your space. Also boldness, colors, bright things. What makes you feel bold? What's in the power stance? What's your power stance? In that. Because whether or not you're 4'5" or 5'4" or 6'4", you can own your space. When it comes down to the movement that you do, take your time, purposeful movement that goes with your story. Again, crafting it at the same time, not trying to add it so much later, but how you would have a conversation. If I'm going to say later, I'm going to bring my arm over there later. There it goes later. But in the process of a conversation, or how you would speak, take it slow. Own your space. Hope that answers. Was that part of that? I hope that makes sense. Okay, thank you. I like the thumbs up. Yes.
I have a question about body language. So when we speak, for me, it's natural to have this body language. See, right now I'm moving my hand. It's natural. I'm not controlling it. But when we are on a stage, we have to control our body language as well. And we have to bring emotions in our speech as well. So for me, it is a little difficult to control body language and bring emotion at the same time. So how you control that, how you work on all those things, I want to know.
I know I'm going to say this and I'm sounding like a broken record. You practice. You practice. It's going to take time. Give yourself grace. Start small and recognize that, yes, you want to show emotion and you want to have the body movements, but watch yourself. Do audio. Seeing yourself or video, video, but watch yourself. See where you are. Start with small steps. And honestly, give your speech again. You know your speech. Give it again. Give the same speech again and again until you start feeling comfortable. Now you know your content. And now you can say, I know my content. Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. Play with something that you know. So therefore, you're able to now work on just the visual, just that. So you're not getting caught up in your head about your content, because that can get tricky, depending on the level of difficulty. But start with something simple and build from there. And so you're working just on your visual and your movements. Keep it simple in that way as a good practice. That sounds like an idea?
I have one question.
Oh, okay.
You first.
Do you have any tips with respect to the pitch, tone, and pace? Because I have troubles with that all the time. When I speak, I'm thinking my range of tone or pace is very limited. Is it just practice is the one thing that helps, or do you have any other tips and tricks on that?
I would say practice, feedback, and checking out some things maybe in terms of vocal coaching or vocal variety, or watching tips in terms of with singing. A lot of times there's different educational or tutorial things that are online that talk about how people change with their pitch and tone, when you go high or go low, and how that works for you. And then practice, and hear yourself, audio, record, work on that. Say today during your speech, again, take the same content. Mary had a lamb, and its fleece was white as snow. So playing around with different things that you already know the content, so you don't get lost in that, but work on your pitch. That gives you something as a place to start. I want to get moving because I do know we want to respect everyone's time, but overall, communication is a skill that you can learn. It's like riding a bicycle or typing. If you're willing to work at it, you can rapidly improve the quality of every part of your life. Brian Tracy, you can work on this. We can keep at it, and you will improve every part, because everything is communication. And now with that, I will move on to our bit. Now, my information is here. I will make sure that it's posted. So if anyone has questions for me later, feel free, reach out. I will respond. Yeah.